There's a moment in practice that's subtle, but it changes everything. It's when Reiki stops being something you do and starts becoming who you are. At first, that sounds spiritual, even empowering. You speak the language. You adopt the tone. You carry the identity. But quietly, without realizing it, the practice can slip into performance. Reiki becomes a personality. How you talk, how you present, how you're perceived. And when that happens, something important gets lost, because a personality wants consistency, approval, recognition, but a real practice wants honesty, adjustment, correction. When Reiki becomes part of your identity, it gets harder to listen to feedback, harder to admit confusion, harder to acknowledge misalignment, harder to change, not because you don't care, but because changing would feel like losing who you are. This is where many practitioners get stuck. They keep up the image, even when the relationship feels strained. They repeat familiar language even when it no longer fits. They protect the identity instead of tending the practice. And Reiki notices, not with judgment, with restraint, because Reiki doesn't respond to image. It responds to presence. A personality can talk about Reiki all day without ever being in dialogue with it. A practice, on the other hand, requires humility. It requires being willing to say, I don't know what this is asking of me right now. That's difficult if your sense of self is tied to appearing certain. This is the shadow side of spiritual identity. Not ego in the obvious sense, but attachment to being seen as aligned. And attachment always limits listening. Reiki doesn't ask you to abandon your sense of self. It asks you to keep your identity flexible, to let the practice shape you, instead of freezing it into a role. When Reiki is alive in you, it changes you. And if you're protecting an identity, change feels threatening. So the practice becomes quieter, less responsive, less intimate, not because Reiki left, but because it's waiting for you to show up without the mask. If this video makes you uncomfortable, that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It may mean you're ready to separate who you are from how you practice. I explore this dynamic and how spiritual identity can quietly replace real relationship in my book, Return of the Prodigal Reiki Practitioners, the shadow side of the Reiki practice. This channel helps you notice when the shift happens. The book helps you restore the practice without losing yourself. Reiki doesn't want a personality, it wants presence. And the moment you stop performing alignment is the moment the relationship deepens again.